Wanted to talk about TLT stock and, of course, TMF stock, which are both ETFs versus the 20 plus and 30 plus Treasury markets. I've been very consistent with where I think these stocks are going to go. They've rallied a bit off of some lows we've seen that we haven't seen in quite some time. And I wanted to kind of talk about what it is I'm looking at that consistently, when these things are rallying as much as they are, I sell calls, taking that premium, but almost immediately the market falls right back down. I don't pick tops and bottoms. I pick overall general trends. I think TMF, TLT are both a little too high right now. Interest rates are going to remain higher for longer. You don't care much about the inflation CPI report right now. The bigger picture, of course, is the money supply. You have to keep that in focus. And as long as the money supply remains pretty liquid the way it is right now, we're going to see some interest rates remain stuck up to there, and that the Federal Reserve is going to continue to keep these interest rates that much higher. I expect that if we maintained this exact same economy, we might be 12 to 18 months until we get a little closer to what might be a trend line growth rate for M2 money supply. Given that, when I do see these kinds of rallies, I have been selling calls. When the market falls a little too far, I think we've probably seen the bottom for some time. Any kind of moves significantly lower in TLT stock or TMF stock, I'm selling puts all day long. Let's jump in. I want to show you a couple charts. If you're just stopping by, thanks so much. Make sure to hit that like and follow button. This channel is growing quite rapidly. Thank you so much. Real fast, actually. And it's this content. I know a lot of guys really come back to see what I have to say about TLT. I don't think I've just been discovered yet in some of the other stocks that I look at on a regular basis. But here we are looking at, this is actually the 4-hour bar chart on the U.S. Treasury bond. This is the 20-year. Looking back, I guess it was last week, roughly, I want to say about the 8th or 9th or so, you saw that move downward in the 20, and the 20 hit about 4.80, bounced, went right back up. I had put a video out. So I do my videos usually in the evenings. I stay pretty focused on trading all in the mornings, and then I do a lot of working out and stuff like this. And so I don't get to the videos until a little bit later in the evening. And then I try to get them out that evening, assuming I don't have any medical emergencies. Thanks again for some time there. So I had the market, the 20-year, as you can see, hit 4.0. And I thought, that's just too much. Too fast. It'll pull back. So I sold some calls on TLT. Let's move forward on TLT. And as you can see, TLT, and that was the 9th, I guess it was. The move higher was several days. I had sold into that, and then sure enough, it just fell. It's too high is basically where things are right now. Interest rates are going to remain higher for longer. Well, we already know that. But you have to also consider the yield curve. So the yield curve itself is really what's driving everything. You have the front months, but then you have the 2-year, the 10, the 20, and the 30. A couple others. Maybe there's 25 in there. Depends on how much information you want to put in the yield curve. The 10 is adjusting to the idea that interest rates are going to remain higher for longer. So they're taking a little bit of time to kind of rise up to where the 2 is. The 2, of course, is a little more close to what the Federal Reserve is doing. So these longer dates, the 20 and the 30, are also adjusting to a new norm. And that's really what this is all about when you're taking a look at this stock. So anytime we see this thing, TLT stock, move lower, like it did, or actually higher, like it did back on the 8th and 9th when I stepped in and sold, and I did so 2 days ago, that worked out. I got out of there real fast. All day today, the market sold off again. The thing is, when you consider the yield curve and the fact that the Federal Reserve is going to keep short-term rates, the long end will adjust to that. So when we start seeing these prices in TLT and TMF stock, to me, it's too much, too far, so I step in and I sell. I can't sit there and say, oh, tomorrow it's going to be up or down. But I have a more broad outlook when I look at these things and say, how, this is too high, but this is too low. And I've said this over the past couple videos that my expectation is we're range bound because the Federal Reserve won't be moving anytime soon. The problem is the Federal Reserve, once they start moving, they are going to have to raise or lower interest rates at some point. Maybe we get one or two more short-term rates. That's really not going to affect the 10, 20, or 30. So it's not going to affect TLT stock or TMF stock as much. But we are going to get more normalized. So when we look at TLT and you see, say, 82, given the information we have right now, inflation seems to be more under control. The federal government will probably avoid some kind of shutdown, although I don't know that Mike Johnson's going to be sitting comfortably in that chair. There's some individuals who might go after him because of the deal he struck. Who knows? In the meantime, so you've got inflation, no bumpy rides with the federal government, but you still have the deficit. And if the GDP slows down, tax revenues are going to decline. If the tax revenues decline, you have to get extra savings to buy in on treasuries. Otherwise, they will be pressured because the debt to GDP ratio is too wide at this point. So these are things you really kind of consider. Here is a look at the M2 money supply. And I look at, say, 2014, 16, 18, 20, we were on a trend line. We've obliterated that trend line, but the Federal Reserve needs to get back to that trend line. Otherwise, we are still going to be in an ultra liquid environment that they probably don't want to be dealing with because of all the backlash that will affect that going forward. But at the same time, the Federal Reserve is also no longer buying every single thing that the federal government is pushing out, pushing interest rates the way they have been. So that's even more savings that are going to have to go into buying up this debt. That lack of savings will actually shift the money supply. People will be taking their money out of banks to buy bonds. So the bond rates are probably going to remain higher for longer. Retirees are going to take that money out of their bank account, throw it into the U.S. Treasury markets or other bond markets. And because of that, it shrinks the money supply. So there are a lot of forces that are going to be working in the favor of the success of the program that the Federal Reserve is putting together. But I don't see this as a one-way trip up for TLT or TMF. Interest rates will have to remain high for long because of that. TLT stock and TMF stock, the ETFs for the 20 and 30 plus, they're going to be stuck in a range that's going to be very low. So I'm not pushing forward with moves saying, that's it, we're going up. Not yet. Might take about 4, 6, 8, 9 months. But I expect, given the information we have right now, we're stuck in this range. For me, I got out of my position. I put a position in on Monday, sold that out, did okay. I got out pretty quick. I made a couple quick points and ran. I'm not calling anything right now. I think we'll probably see some move lower in TLT and TMF. They did slide a little bit lower. The bond markets did kind of retrace themselves. I did look after hours. We're seeing kind of movements. S&P 500 is kind of moving downward. I don't know if there's any kind of news or anything like that, but it's after hours. There's really anything going on. It's Asia. Maybe something's happening in China with their markets or their economy. We'll see how that plays out. Nonetheless, I will continue to put this information out there on TLT stock and TMF stock. These ETFs, I know they're very important to a lot of the people who have been following the channel. If you're new here, please make sure to hit that like and follow button. Appreciate all the great comments. We'll see you in the next video.